I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity.
Mighty Zoidzilla rule the night, heroic blue guardians ready for the fight. Claws and lasers cutting through the sky. Zoidstar, we ain't saying goodbye. Evil red mutants led by red orange might. Dark machines and shadows that bring the blight. Rumbling round and lightning in their wake. No surrenders, cause we make no mistake. nanobites. Machines whisper his name, bolts and sparks fly. Blue guardians tremble, cark in the sky. Conquering will the stars in his wake. Planet Zoidstar about to break quake. Decree law. Endless warpath, circuits ablaze. No mercy program, hatred in a maze. Destiny forged in metal and fire. Zoidstar sun to Clark's desire. Planet blue, the point lights up the skies. War drums echo mechanical cries. Crocs throne rising giant made of steel. Planet Zoidstar, nothing left to feel. Let color crack, lead more machines. Zoids unite, screaming twisted dreams. Universe quaking under his iron claw. Red prince of doom, final decree law. More lights up the skies. More drums echo mechanical cries. Throne rising giant made of steel. Planet Zoidstar, nothing left to feel. Power surge, endless crush control found. Universe, engines went to crown. Ancient Zoids following without cease. Crocs dominion, everlasting peace.
With his magneto when he splits the skies. Salamander, Bombvern, robotic cries. Now stars like with missiles loaded. Seeing the standard screens are reloaded. The rule of battlefield will seize the sky. On planets side, the hell is coming nigh. Glide alert, Pegasus, Rose with Tiger. New aerials or plans that must transpire. Blow away any empire on East Lander. You're the Helix, Zoid, and Force Commander. Spread your terror, storming, soar and burn. Rain death on them, Salamander, Bombvern. Blow away any empire on East Lander. You're the Helix, Zoid, and Force Commander. Spread your terror, storming, soar and burn. Rain death on them, Salamander, Bombvern. Salamander forged with Earth technology. Dispatching force to keep Republic free. Your missiles keep the Zenith boss force weak. Destroy their air support, havoc you wreak. But your potential has not yet been met. We'll make you into the terrors of threat. You will red in the skies as you fly on through. Live on as the Salamander Motto. Blow away any empire on East Lander. You're the Helix, Zoid, and Force Commander. Spread your terror, storming, soar and burn. Rain death on them, Salamander, Bombvern. Blow away any empire on East Lander. You're the Helix, Zoid, and Force Commander. Spread your terror, storming, soar and burn. Rain death on them, Salamander, Bombvern. arms a wild form retreat. Salamander we must bring back from the brink. The Republic's super cannons we fit to make you Salamander Bombvern lit. Blow away any empire on East London. You're the Helix Zoid Air Force Commander. Splatter terror, soaring, surrender. Rain death on them, Salamander Bombvern. Blow away any empire on East London. You're the Helix Zoid Air Force Commander. Splatter terror, soaring, surrender. Rain death on them, Salamander Bombvern.
Never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight.
I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.